Rachael James is a mother and an entrepreneur who is committed to intentionally living both within her family structure, her business culture, and her community at large. She is all about chasing down big dreams with her 4 children in tow. And she aims to stand in the gap between motherhood and entrepreneurship. She recently founded one of my favorite companies with a mission to bring crystals into a modern lifestyle in a way that is affordable, inspirational, and sustainable. I loved our conversation today because she and I talk about how we can use our intuition to bring crystal energy into our everyday life in a way that is not woo-woo, not esoteric, and does not prescribe to any belief system or religion. We also talk about why she decided to found her company and live in one of the most underserved neighborhoods in the Southeast. Rachael James, welcome to the Lindsay Elmore Show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Not only am I excited to talk to you today, but I am very, very highly honored to count you as a friend. And you have recently done a business transition into one of those categories of business that some people think is healthcare related and other people think is just hogwash because you bring crystals into people's lives. And I have been a huge advocate of crystal energy and the way that they can help to set the tone and the mood in your environment. What have been the experiences that you've had with having crystals in your home, on your person, and going into the research? What drew you to crystals, and what do you think the health benefits of them are? Because something inspired you so much to where you finally said, I'm going to make this my profession.
So that's a lot. And let's unpack it. It's so fun. I grew up with this kind of renegade hippie mom. I also lived on a volcanic island in the Caribbean. And, volcanic islands have an energy frequency. I mean, not only is the Caribbean beautiful, but there is a feeling that is invoked just by being on those sandy beaches, standing in a rainforest that has, when you look at the atom structure of a crystal or a volcano or whatever, the atom structure is there to control and move energetic frequency. That's what it does. That's why it's running our computers, it's running our cell phones. People have been using crystals for all different kinds of things since the beginning of time. And we talk about, so with crystal healing and my experiences with it, it's kind of one of those things like taking supplements or, like drinking a smoothie where you don't have like an immediate effect, or you don't notice what it's doing, but you kind of notice when you remove it and like something feels off. Because I've been exposed to crystals my whole life, my mom had them in our house. I lived in the Caribbean where there is crystals in the sand. When I'm removed from that, that's when I feel it, or when I walk into my home after being gone all day and I can just feel my nervous system regulate. And that's really kind of what the frequency of crystals do, is they help regulate our central nervous system back to a grounded or elevated baseline. So what made me get into that as a profession? I said I came from this kind of renegade hippie family. I married a chiropractor. We've lived a really natural and holistic lifestyle for a very, very long time. Crystals have been a part of that. However, buying crystals was always kind of this energetically like stuck feeling, because I would walk into a crystal shop and feel wrong for being there. The energy of the crystal store, the shop owner or the clerk there would make me feel like I didn't belong, like I wasn't witchy enough or woo-woo enough or vibey enough or something not enough. Like I felt like I didn't belong in there. And I kind of stopped going and buying crystals because I felt bad. The energy was weird. I didn't like the way that I felt when I was in there. I didn't like the way that I felt after. I didn't really like the way my crystals felt. And so I kind of shelved it for a little while. And then I learned about a wholesaler that was relatively close to me. And I needed a big minimum and a retail license to go in and buy crystals in there. And buying it from a wholesale perspective was like so freeing to me, because there wasn't any like energy put in the environment of the crystal shop. You know, the guys that are working there getting paid $10 an hour to stock the shelf is very different than whatever a shop owner has curated. And a lot of times it came from like a Wiccan place, which is fine. And something that I hold space for in my crystal shop is for people to use crystals for whatever they want. But I went to this wholesaler. I met the minimum, which was $2,500. And you can only do that so many times, you know, before you're like, oh, how many crystals are you going to have?
I know.
And then I started to realize I, you know, would do these little pop-ups on my table, like co-op style, and to help like share the load of the big minimum. And I realized that there was a need, that there was other people feeling that way, like they didn't belong in the crystal world. They felt weird about it. There was some sort of dogmatic approach that didn't align with their belief system. And so last year around this time, Wild Alabaster was born. And, you know, it just comes from a pain point and a feeling of belonging. And so in Wild Alabaster, I create space for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. There's room at the table for you, whether you're using crystals for, you know, healing, or just because they're pretty. Like crystals are pretty. And there's some people who are like, no, I don't believe in woo woo. I don't believe in energy. When people tell me that they don't believe in energy, I'm like, that's a wild thought process to me. But there's plenty of people who feel that way, and they just want crystals in their house because they're beautiful.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about how, if somebody's never had a crystal, which, you know, it is, like you said a minute ago, boggles your mind when people say they don't believe in energy. This past year, as holiday gifts, you and I worked together to get crystals for every podcast guest that I have had in the past year. And at least 10 of them were like, this first crystal I've ever had. And that to me is just, wait, what? You know, like, how have you never had a rock that meant something to you that you brought home from the woods or from the beach or from your travels or something? But what are the ways that people can artfully display them, if that's all they're there for, is just these are pretty objects that can adorn my space? And then if people want to take it a step further and perhaps use them strategically to, as you put it, govern the energetic flow through their atomic structure, or perhaps using them with some intentions towards healings, what are your favorite ways to use crystals?
So I'm definitely, my design background makes me like, I'm here for pretty. My house is literally decorated with crystals. I follow some feng shui principles with crystals because feng shui lends to crystals and colors. And so I've incorporated some of that into my home in the design flow and the energetic feel. Like, as somebody who's spent 15 years working and creating from home, like as a creative person, my space has to be just right. And which is hard as a homeschooling mom of 4, but I've incorporated that into my home. And some of it is feng shui led, but then some of it's just intuitional where I'm like, no, like that doesn't go there. It goes here. And that's okay too. So if you are wanting to incorporate crystals into decor simply for the fact that they're pretty and they're sparkly, you can use neutral colors, or they're, depending on what your color palette is for your house, incorporate some of those colors and literally just put them where you want. Go with your gut, just like you would a vase. Like, we don't have to overanalyze it. We can just say, you know what, I want this here, and that's perfect. And that's good enough. People in the crystal world want to be dogmatic about it. And I think that, it comes from this place of wanting their profession to be taken seriously. So they put some strict boundaries around the way that it has to be done. And I don't believe that. I think that you can do crystals however you want. They're rocks. They were here millennia before us, and they will exist long after us. Mm-hmm. And so you get to do it exactly how you want, and that's okay. I also